Stop what you're doing for the next few minutes, because if you have any connection to Oregon right now, family there, friends there, or you live there yourself, you need this update immediately. The state just broke its own all-time wildfire record. More than 2 million acres have now burned this season alone. Evacuation orders are active across multiple counties as I'm recording this, and the two most dangerous months of the entire fire season have not even started yet. I'm not easing into this one with a slow build-up this morning. Let's get straight into exactly what is happening on the ground right now. Start with the number that should stop everybody in their tracks. 2 million acres burned, confirmed, officially surpassing Oregon's previous record season, set back in 2024. I need y'all to understand exactly how alarming that milestone actually is once you factor in the calendar. Oregon Department of Forestry spokesperson Jessica Noyar said it directly. It is genuinely rare to see this much ground burned this early in the season, and August and September, historically the most destructive stretch of the entire year for Oregon wildfires, are still fully ahead of us. This record was not set at the tail end of a long, exhausting season. It was set before the season's worst chapter has even begun. Here is exactly what is burning across the state right now, incident by incident, because this is not one fire commanding all the attention. It is dozens burning simultaneously. The Roe Creek Complex fire in Central Oregon is the largest single incident, having burned more than 320,000 acres, currently sitting at roughly 53% containment. The Bench Fire, which has directly threatened the community of Warm Springs, has burned close to 67,000 acres and is now around 86% contained, a genuine bright spot after a hard-fought stretch. The Shingle Fire has burned approximately 73,000 acres and sits near 70% containment. But not every fire on this list is trending the right direction. The Grasshopper Fire in Wasco County exploded past 18,000 acres with zero containment, while directly threatening the towns of Pine Hollow and Waumec, forcing Oregon's state fire marshal to formally invoke the Emergency Conflagration Act, pulling in firefighting resources from outside the state entirely. The Second Flat Fire in Harney County has torn through more than 300,000 acres on its own, forcing evacuations for tribal members living on the Burns Paiute Reservation. And across Gilliam, Wheeler, Wasco, Crook, Jefferson, and Umatilla counties. Additional major incidents, including the Hay Creek Complex and the Hagen Fire near the Umatilla Indian Reservation, remain actively burning, with the Hagen Fire serious enough that the Oregon National Guard activated 4 helicopters and roughly 20 service members specifically dedicated to fighting it. I want y'all to understand exactly how this crisis actually started, because it happened almost overnight. A series of lightning storms rolled across Oregon during the final days of July. And instead of producing the usual scattering of isolated fire starts, this specific sequence of storms ignited dozens of separate wildfires within an incredibly short window, immediately overwhelming firefighting resources that were already stretched thin from an already active early season. And it did not stop there. Hot, dry weather and strong, gusty winds have continued fueling explosive fire growth ever since that initial round of lightning, on top of fuel conditions across the state running exceptionally dry, even for a region that expects dry summers as a matter of course. U.S. Forest Service spokesperson Mary Ellen Fitzgerald made the point directly. This part of Oregon is always dry in the summer months, but this year, conditions are exceptionally dry, and drying out unusually early compared to a typical fire season. Now, let's talk about the people caught in the middle of all of this, because behind every acreage total and containment percentage are families who have had to leave everything behind on almost no notice. At the peak of this crisis, more than 24,000 people across Oregon were placed under some level of evacuation order, with thousands specifically under Level 3 Go Now status, the single most urgent classification available, meaning immediate, mandatory departure. No time to pack, no time to wait for a follow-up alert. Several homes have already been destroyed. And even where evacuation levels have since been reduced, officials continue warning residents that power may still be out across affected areas, and that active fire crews remain engaged putting out hotspots along fire lines, meaning conditions on evacuation and access roads can shift again with very little warning, even after the immediate danger appears to have passed. I also need y'all to understand that this crisis is not contained to Oregon's borders. Just across the state line, wildfires burning through Spokane and Stevens counties in eastern Washington have already forced thousands of additional residents from their homes and destroyed hundreds of structures, a situation serious enough that Washington's own governor issued a statewide emergency proclamation. 2 neighboring states simultaneously facing historic or near-historic wildfire activity at the exact same point on the calendar. This is a full Pacific Northwest crisis, not an isolated Oregon story, and I want everybody watching this video, regardless of which specific state you call home, understanding the true regional scope of what is unfolding right now. More than 12,000 firefighters and support personnel are currently working around the clock across Oregon alone, trying to contain these fires, And forecasters are already warning of another round of lightning expected across northeastern Oregon in the coming days, raising the genuine possibility of an entirely new wave of fire starts stacking on top of a firefighting effort that is already stretched about as thin as it can go. So here is exactly what I need anybody in the affected region doing, and I need you doing it now, not after you finish reading the rest of this update. If you live anywhere across central or eastern Oregon, including Deschutes, Jefferson, Wasco, Crook, Gilliam, Wheeler, Harney, or Umatilla counties, or across the affected counties in eastern Washington, pack your go bag and map your evacuation route immediately, before any order reaches your address, not after. If you are already under any level of evacuation notice, follow it completely and without delay, because a level 3 go now order means exactly what it says, right now, no exceptions. Watch closely for updated roadblock information, even in areas where evacuation levels have recently eased, since active fire crews working hotspots can change road conditions with essentially no warning. And if you are anywhere in the broader region dealing with heavy smoke rather than direct flame threat, protect your household's air quality immediately, sealing windows and doors, switching your HVAC to recirculate mode, and running a high-performance air purifier if you have access to one, because wildfire smoke poses genuine respiratory danger even miles away from the nearest active fire line. I also need y'all to understand how much this crisis has disrupted travel and daily life across the broader region, well beyond the immediate evacuation zones themselves. Major highways across central and eastern Oregon have faced repeated closures and detours as fires burn near key travel corridors, disrupting freight traffic, commuting patterns, and regional tourism access all at once. Residents in areas adjacent to, but not directly inside, active evacuation zones have had to navigate constantly shifting road access, sometimes finding a route open in the morning and closed again by afternoon as fire behavior changes with the day's winds. This is exactly why officials keep stressing the importance of checking real-time official road and evacuation information rather than relying on outdated information or word of mouth, since conditions across this fire zone are changing on an hour-to-hour basis rather than staying fixed from one day to the next. I need y'all to understand exactly how unprecedented this season truly is compared to what Oregon has dealt with before. The state's previous record season was 2024. Before that, the 2021 season, which at the time was already considered one of the most destructive in Oregon's modern history, burned more than 800,000 acres across over 1,600 individual fires. This season has already burned past the combined total of both of those benchmark years, and it did that before Oregon even reached the calendar stretch that has historically produced its worst fire activity. Scientists who study Western wildfire trends point directly to a well-documented worsening pattern behind seasons like this one: shrinking mountain snowpack, earlier and faster spring snowmelt, and progressively drier summer conditions, settling across the interior Pacific Northwest year after year, stretching the window during which the landscape sits primed and ready to ignite. This is not bad luck. This is a trend fire researchers have been sounding the alarm about for years, and this season is living proof of exactly what they have been warning would eventually happen. I also want you to understand what communities across the fire zone are actually dealing with beyond the fire line itself. Families who have already lost homes are now facing months, potentially years, of rebuilding, competing for contractors, materials, and permitting attention alongside dozens of other households in the exact same position simultaneously. Ranchers across Harney County, where the second flat fire alone has consumed more than 300,000 acres of rangeland, are scrambling right now to relocate cattle, secure emergency feed, and figure out how to keep their operations running on land that will take years to fully recover. And even residents whose homes were never directly threatened by flame are dealing with genuine health consequences from weeks of heavy smoke exposure, an impact that does not simply end the moment a fire reaches full containment. This crisis extends far beyond the acreage totals and containment percentages making headlines. I also want to make sure y'all understand just how far this smoke is actually traveling, because the impact of this fire season is not confined to the counties where the flames themselves are burning. Smoke from fires of this scale routinely travels hundreds of miles on prevailing winds, degrading air quality across major population centers, well outside the immediate fire zone, including Portland, the broader Willamette Valley, and at times areas well beyond Oregon's own borders. Public health officials across the region have been urging residents in smoke-affected areas, even those far removed from any direct fire threat, to check local air quality index readings before spending extended time outdoors, since prolonged exposure to wildfire smoke carries genuine respiratory and cardiovascular health risks, particularly for children, older adults, pregnant individuals, and anyone with pre-existing heart or lung conditions. This is exactly why I keep emphasizing indoor air quality precautions throughout this update. not just for people directly inside an evacuation zone, but for anybody across this smoke-affected region who might otherwise assume that being miles away from the nearest fire line means they are outside the reach of any real health impact from this crisis. I will be tracking this crisis minute by minute as containment efforts continue and as that next forecasted round of lightning activity approaches, and I will have updates out for y'all the second conditions shift in either direction. If this update gave you the real current picture of what Oregon and the broader Pacific Northwest are facing right now, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications immediately. And share this video with everybody you know connected to this region, because a record-breaking fire season with its most dangerous stretch still ahead is not a story anybody should be tuning out of right now. I will keep watching the fire lines for y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one. Stay safe out there.